Fabio Quartararo has delivered one of his most candid and emotionally charged assessments yet of Yamaha's technical direction, lifting the lid on what he sees as a worrying lack of progress from the inline-4 engine that will still underpin the Japanese manufacturer's MotoGP package heading into 2026. As MotoGP approaches a pivotal technical crossroads, 2026 is shaping up to be a defining season for both Quartararo and Yamaha. The Iwata-based factory is preparing for a historic shift away from its long-standing inline-4 philosophy towards a V4 configuration, signaling the end of an era that has defined Yamaha's identity in the premier class for decades. Yet despite the looming revolution, Quartararo's frustration is rooted firmly in the present. The reigning Yamaha talisman has made it clear that the current inline-4 engine, even in its latest 2026 spec iteration, has failed to deliver the step forward required to fight at the sharp end of the grid. For Quartararo, the situation is deeply personal. The inline-4 engine is inseparable from the peak of his career, the machine that carried him to the 2021 MotoGP World Championship and established him as the benchmark rider of his generation. That emotional bond, however, is now being tested by harsh competitive realities. While Yamaha has extracted incremental gains in outright power during the 2025 season, Quartararo insists these improvements barely register against rivals who continue to push development aggressively, particularly Ducati and KTM. Step by step, we have slightly increased the engine power. Unfortunately, it's still not enough, Quartararo admitted, his tone betraying both realism and resignation. Crucially, Quartararo revealed that Yamaha's most significant progress has not come from the engine at all, but from the electronic side of the project, a telling admission in a championship where raw acceleration and top speed increasingly define race outcomes. The biggest step we made was in electronics, he explained. We're trying to understand how I can adapt better and faster with the help of a more efficient electronic system. From a technical perspective, this highlights Yamaha's growing reliance on rideability and rider-friendly characteristics to mask structural deficits in engine performance. While refined electronics can improve tyre management and consistency over race distance, they cannot compensate indefinitely for a lack of horsepower on modern MotoGP circuits, dominated by long straights and brutal acceleration zones. There was also a noticeable edge of irony in Quartararo's assessment of the situation. Despite the hard work behind the scenes, the tangible impact on lap time has been minimal, fueling a sense that Yamaha's development focus has already shifted away from the current bike. Indeed, Quartararo openly acknowledged that the factory's attention now appears firmly fixed on the future V4 project, leaving the 2025 machine and by extension the inline-4 concept in a state of technical limbo. The move to a V4 engine is, on paper, an admission that Yamaha's traditional philosophy has reached its ceiling under the current MotoGP regulations. V4 engines offer superior acceleration, higher peak power, and greater aerodynamic flexibility advantages Yamaha has struggled to counter for several seasons. Still, Quartararo remains cautiously ambivalent about what lies ahead. Despite his mounting frustrations, he does not dismiss the possibility of missing the inline-4's smoothness, predictability, and corner speed strengths traits that once made Yamaha the most rider-friendly bike on the grid. Maybe I will miss it. Maybe I won't. We don't know what next year's bike will be like, he said. Switching to a V4 is definitely interesting, but it's also possible that I'll end up missing the bike we have now. That uncertainty underscores the scale of the challenge facing both rider and manufacturer. Transitioning to a V4 is not merely a change of engine layout. It demands a complete rethink of chassis balance, riding style, aerodynamics, and electronics areas where Yamaha lacks recent experience compared to its European rivals. Quartararo was frank in his final assessment. The limited developments seen throughout 2025 must be justified by a genuine leap forward in 2026. Anything less would risk further erosion of Yamaha's competitiveness and patience. I think the engineers are much more focused on the 2026 bike now. That's why the improvements this season have been quite small, he concluded. But I hope there's a good reason for that, so that we finally have a bike that is truly competitive next year. With paddock tensions rising and expectations mounting, 2026 may well determine not only Yamaha's future direction, but also how long Fabio Quartararo is willing to endure a rebuilding phase in the prime years of his career. Behind Quartararo's measured words lies a broader concern shared quietly across the Yamaha garage. Engineers and crew members understand that MotoGP's current technical landscape no longer rewards conservatism. Marginal gains are quickly swallowed by rivals who pursue aggressive innovation, and Yamaha's traditionally cautious approach now risks leaving them permanently on the back foot. The frustration is amplified by the fact that Quartararo continues to extract performances that arguably flatter the package beneath him. On circuits where corner speed and rhythm still matter, he remains capable of mixing it with faster machinery, a testament to his talent, but also an uncomfortable reminder of what might be possible with a truly competitive engine. From a strategic standpoint, Yamaha's transitional phase is arguably arriving later than ideal. Ducati's V4 ecosystem has matured, KTM's project is fully aligned around power and aerodynamics, and even Aprilia has refined its concept into a consistent race-winning threat. Yamaha, by contrast, is attempting to reinvent itself while already under pressure. This places Quartararo in an unenviable position. As the team's reference rider, he must simultaneously adapt to a stagnating platform while providing feedback that shapes an entirely new motorcycle philosophy. Few riders have successfully navigated such a dual role without performance or patience suffering along the way. There is also a psychological dimension to consider. Riders operate on confidence, and repeated seasons of compromised competitiveness can subtly erode belief, even for a world champion. Quartararo's openness in recent interviews suggests not a loss of motivation, but a growing demand for transparency and tangible progress from the factory. Within the paddock, rivals are watching Yamaha's next steps closely. A successful V4 debut could reset the competitive order and re-establish Yamaha as a technical leader. Failure, however, would confirm fears that the factory underestimated the complexity of modern MotoGP development. Importantly, 2026 will not allow for extended adaptation. Regulation stability means rivals will arrive fully armed, leaving Yamaha little margin for error. Quartararo's learning curve with the V4 must be steep, efficient, and immediately productive if Yamaha is to avoid another season of damage limitation.